Good afternoon to everyone. Today will be our final revision. Uh, Before this, I think you should be well prepared. I think should be no problem. So go to exam, don't force yourself. Try your very best. Okay, do your best. Don't worry so much. If you do regular revision, regular attendance, you should able to pass. Anything above is a bonus.
So good afternoon, Brother Lau and all. This is my assignment. Okay, the first question is enumerate the four sublime states and explain any one of them. So this one I actually take from the textbook. The term Brahma refers to a group of celestial beings that are above the gods. Thus, the Brahma world is above the Deva world. Brahmas are free from hate, jealousy, and other evils of the kind. Vihara means a living place or an abode. The term Brahma Vihara means a Brahma-like abode or sublime state. The sublime attitudes are ideal ways of conduct towards living in a divine-like state and become equal to Brahma Sama. There are four Brahma Viharas: Metta, loving kindness; Karuna, compassion; Mudita, sympathetic joy; and Upekkha, equanimity. They are also termed as Appamana, illimitables, because their perfections have no boundaries of caste, race, sex, and religions. The four Brahma Viharas should be extended to all beings, not just human. They provide answers to all situations arising from social conflicts and forces of selfishness, and they bring about happiness and well-being to others. They are not just principles of conduct, but subjects of meditation leading to jhanas. Next slide, please. So the first one is metta, loving kindness. The term metta is identical to the term mita bhava and gives the meaning the state of a true friend. Metta is goodwill, loving kindness, and universal love for the living beings. It is love without desire to possess. It embraces all beings, big or small, far or near, on earth, in water, in air. It is directed to all beings impartially. It is sincere wish for the welfare and happiness for all. Cultivation of metta is stated in the Metta Sutta as just as the mother protects the only child even at the risk of her own life, even so one should cultivate boundless loving kindness towards all living beings. Just as the sun sheds its rays on all without any distinction, metta bestows its blessings equally on rich, poor, men, women, human, animals, friends, and enemies. Next slide, please. So the advantages, the practice of metta, he who practices metta sleeps happily. He awakes with a loving heart. Even in sleep, he is not disturbed by bad dreams. He becomes dear to human beings. He is dear to non-humans. He becomes immune from poison. Invisible deities protect him. Metta leads to a quick mental concentration. A person with metta dies peacefully. Metta tends to beautify one's facial expression, and a person with metta dies in happiness and will be reborn in a blissful state. Next slide, please. So I actually write four lah. So karuna, compassion, it is the wish one has to remove others' sufferings. A truly compassionate person lives not for himself but for others. He seeks opportunities to serve others and expects nothing in return. At times, he goes to the extent of sacrificing own life to alleviate the sufferings of others. The Bodhisattva sacrificed his own life to save a starving tigress and her cubs. This is in Vyagri Jataka. The Buddha set a noble example by attending to the sick monk Putigata Tissa with his own hands. He had compassion towards Angulimala, the murderer, and Ambapali, the courtesan. The difference between metta and karuna is that karuna embraces all sorrow-stricken beings, while loving kindness embraces all living beings, happy or sorrowful. In his daily routine, the Buddha entered to the ecstasy of great compassion, Mahakaruna Sampati, and radiated loving kindness towards all beings. If he perceived persons who needed assistance, he will go to them. Mata Kundali, Sopaka, Rajumula, and Gulimala were such individuals who received attention from the Buddha. Sopaka and Rajumula were saved from untimely deaths, and Angulimala was saved from committing a heinous crime. Next slide, please. Mudita, sympathetic joy. It is a wish to see others rejoicing in their happiness. Mudita is a remedy for jealousy. Mudita means rejoicing in the success of all, not just the loved ones, but also the enemies. It eliminates arati and is a congratulatory attitude of the person. The practice of mudita is more difficult than metta and karuna, and it demands great personal effort and willpower. Those with mudita will share the happiness of others as if it were one's own happiness. Next slide. Upekkha, equanimity. Upekkha means discerning rightly or impartially. It is looking without aversion or attachment, without favor or disfavor. Upekkha is very essential to maintain an unshakable balance of mind. There are 8 worldly conditions: loss and gain, fame and infamy, praise and blame, pain and happiness. Amidst these vicissitudes of life, some are favorable and some are unfavorable. A wise person can stand firm in like a rock. The life of the Buddha cites numerous instances where the Buddha was severely attacked and insulted, and instances where he was highly honored. He treated both situations equally. The episodes of murder of the courtesan Sirima and forced pregnancy of a woman named Chincha are 2 instances where accusations were leveled against the Buddha. The Buddha endured all insults with perfect equanimity. Insults should be considered as opportunities to practice patience. Next slide. Oh, this is the second question. I think that one short conclusion is it?
Okay. That one you can explain this 4 factor well it should be sufficient because this supply state 4 state is very important. So it can cover both your senior part 1 and part 2. So depend on examiner mood whether they wish to put where. So this is a not typical question which will come out regularly. So good try. You managed to explain all the point. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Can I ask, still, this courtesan Sirima, was it murdered or what? No, right?
Can't remember what, but I copy from the textbook. I
Yeah.
didn't go and check how she died.
No,
I think she was murdered. She was murdered.
Yeah, but then how does the Upekkha comes into play? Because you see, I think Buddha used the body of Sirima to teach the monks and the people that when they are alive, you value them very highly. But now, when they are dead, already, even given freely, also nobody wants. You see, that was a teaching, not so much about the Upekkha, right? Was it Upekkha?
Oh, sorry, I didn't research. I'm not so sure. I have to go back to the story. I'm not sure, but this one I copied from the textbook.
Oh, it's in the textbook.
How was the test? How was the story? I cannot remember.
So Sirima was a very expensive courtesan. So many of them paid very high price to be with her when she was alive. But after she was dead for some reason, then Buddha suggested that the body be left there for some time. Then after that, it go for auction. So the king bring the body out for auction. So ask the prince, the many princes who liked her while she was alive, to to auction for the body, but nobody wants, you see. So gradually the price came down to 0, and even free also nobody wants, you see. And that's how Buddha made use of that as a teaching.
Okay, all right, noted. So I should not write this one, So during exam, don't write Shurima. But I copy from textbook.
Oh, okay. On the Karuna, it came up into my mind the case of the Subhadra, the last disciple. So it's also because this is an external ascetic who wants to seek for answer. So because of Buddha's compassion, that this person is coming to actually look for teaching to help him overcome his doubt. Okay? So Buddha actually has that compassion to teach him. Okay? So he teach him to so he gave him some lesson. Then after that he left, and then later he actually somehow attained Buddhahood, and finally Subhadra has an untimely death. He was caught by a cow or what or something like that. Maybe that one can be one of the story lah. But if you can
okay, Brother Cow, I Google use the AI, normal AI. I got the answer. I share the thing in the group.
Okay.
It's mentioned Upeka. But this story I just Google initially I didn't know how you was said it. Later you read Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, your point that one can write, but it's not in the textbook so not sure.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. So today is 32nd of June 2025. I'll present my assignment on YMBA Senior 2, Dhamma Passing Questions 2018. The first question is explain the middle path, Majjhima Patipada, expounded by the Buddha in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is the first sermon that is delivered by Buddha, and Buddha reminded us to avoid the two extremes that were common during his time in ancient India, but instead to follow his middle way. The two extremes that was mentioned and to be avoided are: one, the extreme sensual pleasure, kama sukha lika anu yoga, and the second one is the extreme of asceticism, atta tila mata anu yoga. So the first one is extreme sensual pleasure, means that is indulged in or attached to sensual pleasures, to enjoy as much as one wishes, engrossed in sense stimuli. Buddha said this was low, vulgar, and ordinary. Whereas the other one, the extreme asceticism, includes self-mortification. That means you are torturing the body, or live like a cow or dog, which was quite prevalent during this time. Buddha said that this was painful, because to torture the body is definitely painful, and it's ignoble, it's not noble, and it's not profitable, because it does not lead to good results. Buddha gave an example: if a person were to succeed in practicing cow asceticism, the chance of him become a cow in future life is very high if he succeeds. So it's actually not profitable or beneficial to the person who practiced that. So the middle way that Buddha proclaimed was neither extreme sensual pleasure nor extreme asceticism, and that was Noble Eightfold Path, Atta Ariya Magga. And this path is actually the fourth truth of the Four Noble Truths. And this is the path that leads to the cessation of suffering, or dukkha nirodha satya. And the middle way comprises of 8 paths, starting from right view, followed by right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The first path is right view, samadhi. So here, samadhi has 2 aspects. When a person wishes to start the spiritual practice or spiritual path, one must have proper and correct basic views. For example, the belief in karma, that wholesome action will lead to pleasant results and unwholesome action will lead to unpleasant results. And with this right view, one will have the right intention and be willing to abstain from unwholesome and practice the wholesome actions. This is an important starting point, and this is also a mundane right view. Otherwise, when one starts with the wrong view, it will lead to wrong intention and the other wrong actions follow. Then the second part of right view is the supramundane right view. It is the culmination of walking this noble eightfold path successfully and to completion. That is, until the attainment of enlightenment or arahanthood. So an arahat has attained and realized the nirvana. He knew, practiced, and realized the Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, and the three characteristics of all conditioned phenomena. He has eradicated all his mental defilements, and his mind is not affected by the conditioned world. So the second path is right intention, or samma sankappa. So this includes the mental intention that is prior to acting, that is bodily or verbal action. Only with right view that one will have right intention. And there are three right intentions stated in the suttas. First, the intention of renunciation, nekkhamma sankappa. There is the intentions for solitude and renouncing of attachment, including sensual pleasure. Then the second one is the intention of non-ill will, abhya pada sankappa. That is the intention of not hurting others and the intention of goodwill, metta. And the third one is the intention of harmlessness, vihimsa sankappa. And this will arouse compassion, karuna. Then the third part is the right speech, samavacha. Samavacha has four aspects. First, the abstain from lying, and the positive part is the speaks of truth. The second, abstain from harsh speech, which is hatred-free. And the positive part is the pleasant speech with loving kindness. The third aspect of right speech is abstain from divisive speech. And the positive part is the harmonious speech. The fourth part is the abstain from idle chatter or frivolous speech that promotes defilements. So instead, the positive part is use meaningful and purposeful speech. So the fourth aspect is the right action. And right action is called sammakamanta. Here, there are three aspects of it. The first one is abstain from killing and value of life by putting down weapons, has sympathy and good wishes for all life. The second aspect is abstain from stealing and instead promote honesty and be charitable. The third part is abstain from sexual misconduct. So it promotes chastity, harmonious family and community living, detachment from immoral and lustful conducts. And the fifth path is actually the right livelihood for samma ajiva. It is to have a livelihood that is legal, morally upright, that does not cause harm or hurt to others, and is without deceit, lying, or cheating. For a lay people, it has to comply with the 5 precepts. For monastic, is to observe strictly to the Vinaya rules. There are 5, in the sutta, there are 5 occupations that are strongly not recommended to one who wishes to practice spiritual development, namely trading in weapons, trading in poisons, trading in life, for example, slavery, trading in intoxicants, or trading in drugs. So these 5 are highly not recommended. Livelihood for even lay people. So the 6th path is right effort, samma vayama. Here there are 4 folds of right efforts. The first 2 is on the unwholesome. Then the second pair is actually on the wholesome. So the first one is to prevent the arising of unwholesome thoughts. For example, factors and latent hindrances or latent tendencies that can hinder one from walking the path and attaining insight. So one has to know and prevent its arising. And the second one is to stop and remove the already arisen unwholesome thoughts. For example, hindrances that has arisen. One needs to know how to stop and overcome it. No? For example, slot and topple when it arises during a sitting meditation. So one way is to change the sitting posture to walking meditation. And the third one is to develop the unarisen wholesome thoughts. So one way to do is one can learn and practice and cultivate, for example, metta and karuna for all beings. Now, this way we actually develop those wholesome thoughts that has yet to arise. And the fourth one is to maintain, sustain, and develop the already arisen wholesome thoughts. That is when there is the thought of wholesome, then we encourage it to continue on. So in all this, effort is required throughout the path. From initiating, that means starting walking the path, to sustaining it, to maintaining it, and then develop it, and ultimately to the realization. So effort is required all throughout the path. And the seventh path is the right mindfulness or right composure, samasati. It is to be aware and mindful of the body and mind. So in Satipatthana, mindfulness is elaborated as the four contemplation of mindfulness. That is contemplation of the body, contemplation of the feeling, contemplation of the consciousness, and contemplation of the reality. So this is a dominant factor that pervades all stages of spiritual path towards liberation. So just like the effort, you need right mindfulness throughout the spiritual path as well. Then the eighth path is right concentration, samma samadhi. Right concentration brings together all the associated mental states together and focus at the meditation object. And they play so that they can play their respective roles. So when the mind is concentrated, there is ekagata, there is great clarity of the object. And it culminates into jhana. When concentration matures, there is jhana. The meditator can utilize this sharp focus and clear mind to see, analyze, and arouse insight into phenomenal, as it really is. That all conditioned phenomena have the three characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, which will then lead one to understand and realize the Four Noble Truths and gain liberation. So in brief, these eight paths can be threefold, namely morality, concentration, or wisdom. That is, the morality comprising of right speech, right action, and right attitude. Concentration, samadhi, comprises of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Wisdom, panya, comprising of right view and right intention. So it can be, the eight path can also be summarized into three. Thus, this middle way is the noble path that helps one to migrate from a deluded mind to supramundane mind that transcends the cycle of existence samsara. The knowledge gained from mundane conventional truth to supramundane and ultimate wisdom. And the Buddha described this path as vision producing, knowledge producing, leading to calm, to direct knowledge, to self-awakening, and to nirvana. That's the end.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Great job, huh?
And
This particular question on Dhamma Cakkavatana Sutta is basically the doctrine of the Buddha when he first transmitted. So basically, this doctrine, very important, is a core teaching, the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. So basically, that Dhamma Cakkavatana Sutta is about this. So the Eightfold Path, for you, if you can remember all during exam, it'll be great because you need to relate what are the things inside the Eightfold Path. Okay, so great job If you can remember everything as it is produced during the exam, then there's no problem for you. So this is a typical question that will come out regularly Okay, so who's the next one?
So I'll continue.
Okay,
I'll continue to the second question now.
Okay, great.
Okay, so this is the question 2, also year 2018. Explain the factors included in any group out of the 7 groups of factors comprising the 37 constituents of enlightenment, Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma. So in the Buddha Dhamma, the goal of most Buddhists, especially the monastic, the final goal is to attain enlightenment, Bodhi. So the teaching of Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma is crucial and highly valued. Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma has 7 groups and comprises of 37 factors of enlightenment. The 7 groups are mindfulness, contemplation, satipatthana, 4 factors. Second one is the right and behavior, samappadana. There's 4 factors. The third one is the psychic power, iddhipada, 4 factors. The fourth one is the faculty, indriya, which has 5 factors. The fifth one is power or bala, which also has 5 factors. The sixth is factors of enlightenment, bojjhanga, which has 7 factors. And the 7th group is the Noble Eightfold Path, Atta Ariya Magga, which has 8 factors. So for this assignment, I'll focus on the faculty indriya, which has 5 factors. So these 5 factors are 1, conviction, saddha; 2, energy, viriya; 3rd, mindfulness, sati; 4th is concentration, samadhi; 5th is wisdom, panya. So in the Buddha Dhamma, the faculty is characterized as that control its own section. It's just like a minister in charge of the ministry that is involved in, or a state minister that oversees the state that he's supposed to oversee. So it is very important in spiritual path, from cultivation to development, as well as the realization of Nibbana. So let's look at the first factors, the saddha indriya, faith faculty. Faith faculty is the faith on the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, and the practices. That means the practices that is prescribed by Buddha in the Dhamma as to how to practice to realize liberation. So this is normally the entry point. That is, saddha is the entry point for most spiritual seekers. In Buddhism, it's not mere faith, but faith with certain amount of understanding, or to some even certain realization. It helps to propel one to learn and then practice the teaching. From the practice, one realizes certain benefits and truth, which then reinforce the initial faith. That means the entry faith becomes stronger. Over time, it develops into a strong, firm faith, which is called faculty of faith. That means it has matured to be a faculty, as a faculty of faith. And this faculty of faith helps to sustain the progress, especially when one encounters difficulties or challenges along the spiritual path. Then the second factor is the viriya indriya. which is the energy faculty. This energy faculty energizes the associated states. It's similar to the four factors of right effort, Sama Vayama. But here I will break into two. The first one is to abstain and stop unwholesome thoughts and deeds. Then the second one is to develop and sustain one's wholesome deeds and spiritual endeavor and progress. It also manifests as persistence and perseverance. So this is similar to the four right efforts. And the third faculty is Sati Indriya, the mindfulness faculty. It is the quality of present moment awareness and enable to observe the phenomenon clearly. This is a dominant and important faculty throughout the spiritual path. The awareness brings along clarity and sharpness, which is crucial when combined with concentration and wisdom faculty. It is a balancing factor in Indriya and Bala, that is power. And the fourth faculty is Samadhi Indriya, faculty of concentration or composure. This faculty brings together the associated states to the object, and its maturity enters into jhana, namely the four rupa jhana and four arupa jhana. It has even better sharpness and brings out better clarity of the object. It manifests as one-pointedness or unification of the mind and mental stability. The fifth faculty is Panya Indriya, wisdom faculty. Its purpose is to know things as it really is, not from mere learning or from memory. It's able to discern between wholesome and unwholesome, analyze all mental and physical phenomena, and leading to the true understanding of nature as it is, and the Four Noble Truths. For the development as enlightenment factors, these five factors have to function optimally. They have to be well-tuned and balanced. For example, when faith is too strong, it may lead to blind faith or belief. On the other hand, when wisdom is too strong, one could be egoistic and think highly of oneself. One may have tendency to question, speculate, and doubt, even things that one has yet to be able to comprehend. Hence, there has to be a balance between simply belief and doubt. Similarly, when energy is too strong, it may lead to agitation and restlessness, which can then overwhelm the practitioner. There is no calmness and concentration is not attainable. On the other hand, when concentration is too strong, one may fall into the trap of sloth and torpor without realizing it. Hence, both energy and concentration have to be balanced too. Thus, these two pairs, faith and wisdom, and energy and concentration, have to be balanced, especially during the spiritual journey. And the balancing act is moderated by mindfulness, the third factor. That is the Sati Indriya. So mindfulness has to be present as it also serves as the foundations for the success. So these five factors have to work together harmoniously, with each supporting the development of the other and towards the realization of enlightenment. When the faculties mature, it becomes power, Bala, which is the next group of the 37 factors of enlightenment. Thank you. That's the end of the
Okay, good job. These 37 factor enlightenment regular question. Okay, so I don't know how it's set this year, but if you attempt this question, you must remember them, the grouping and explain. So whichever kind of grouping they ask you, you prepare ready if you attempt this 37 factor enlightenment. Okay, so it's a pretty long story one. So will be prepared lah. If you same kind come out, then good for you lah. You can remember everything. All right. So this thing will come to the next year one, the diploma, the enlightenment again. Okay. So good job, good job.
For diploma, we'll still have this.
I have this again.
Yeah,
Visuddhi
okay.
Magga. That one also very tough.
Okay.
I'm going through the lecture notes. So after this one, we'll continue the diploma level. Oh, good job. So is it yours or next one?
I think we let Sumitra take over. Let me have a rest first.
Okay. Sumitra, take over.
I have two questions, which is question 3 and question 4. Okay, my question is, what is the moral contained in the Dhammapada stanza, which is verse 64? Yava jivampi che palo vantitang payi rupa sati. Naso damang vijanati dapi suprarasam yata. So translation is, a fool, even though he is associated with a wise man all his life, does not understand the Dhamma, just as a ladder does not know the taste of the soup. So just pick a few words for the direct translation. The fool, Balo here, represents someone who's lacking wisdom, insight, and understanding of the Dhamma. Whereas Panditang refer to the wise person who is embodied with wisdom and the Dhamma. Na Vijanati means will not learn. Dapi refers to the spoon. It is simile as the fool who is physically close to the wise person but remain unaffected by the wisdom. Whereas the taste of the soup, Suparasang, represents the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, where there is no understanding when we put in the old phrases. Oops. So, briefly, the background story is about the story of Venerable Udayi. While residing in Jetavana Monastery, the Buddha spoke this verse with reference to Venerable Udayi, a pretentious monk. The story goes that when the monk left the Hall of Truth, Venerable Udayi used to go in and sit in the seat of the Dhamma. Now, one day, some visiting monks saw him there and thinking to themselves, this must be the Buddha. Asked him some questions about the aggregates of beings and other matters. Discovering that he knew nothing about any of these things, they said in scorn, who is this monk that he should live in the same monastery with the Buddha? He does not even know about the aggregates of beings, the elements of beings, and the organs and objects of sense. So reported the matter to the Buddha. So the moral of the stanza is, teaches the fool, even with the closely associated with wise, will not understand the Dhamma. Much like spoon cannot taste the flavor, this moral highlights the importance of genuine understanding and perceiving of the Dhamma, rather than mere superficial association with the wise or religious practices. The verse emphasizes that true understanding of the Dhamma requires more than just physical presence or intellectual knowledge. It necessitates internalization, practice, and personal experience of the teaching. Simply being around wise people or studying scripture without applying the principle to one's life will not lead to wisdom nor liberation. The fool in the verse is like the spoon, present in the situation, but not truly participating in nor benefiting from it. The core message is that true understanding of the Dhamma requires more than just physical proximity to it. or to those who understand it. It necessitates an open heart and mind, a willingness to learn and apply the teaching and personal experience of the teaching. Simply being around wise people or studying scripture without putting into effort, practice will not lead to wisdom or insight nor liberation. So, a person who lacks these qualities will remain unenlightened regardless of their proximity to the Dhamma or the wise. Okay, that's
Very good
for
try.
Pada. And the second question is actually similar to the question in the previous year. So there are three characteristics of the existence. Tilakana, describe about anicca in your own words. Okay. In Buddhism, the three marks of existence are the three characteristic tilakana of all existence and beings, namely anicca, impermanence, transience, transitories, dukkha, commonly translated as suffering or cause of suffering, unsatisfactory or unease, and the third one, anatta, meaning without a lasting essence, not self. The concept of human beings subject to delusion about the three marks. This delusion resulting in suffering. The removal of the delusion resulting in the end of dukkha is the central theme of the Buddhist Four Noble Truths, the last one which leads to the Noble Eightfold Path. Here, anicca is translated as inconstancy or impermanence. Other words will be transience or transitories. This refers to the fact that all conditioned things are in a constant state of flux. There is one saying, Sabbe Sankara Anicca. All Sankara or conditioned things are impermanent. Impermanence of things is the rising, passing, and changing of things, or the disappearance of things that have become or arisen. The meaning is that these things will never persist in the same way, but they are vanishing, dissolving from moment to moment. The Buddhist view of human beings, according to the Buddha, there is no being, but only ceaseless of becoming. Everything is the product of antecedent causes, and therefore of dependent origination. These causes themselves are not everlasting and static, but simply antecedent aspect of the same ceaseless becoming. Thus, we may conceive everything is the result of concatenation of dynamic process, sankara, and therefore everything created of form is only created of form through this process and not by any agent outside its own nature. Buddhists believe that life is both endless and subject to impermanence, suffering, and uncertainty. Existence is endless because individual undergoes unending rounds of rebirth, experiencing suffering throughout many lives. The beginning, continuity, and ending of all experience for a sentient being is centered in its own individuality of nama and rupa, that is to say, the five groups of grasping that constitute the individual, namely the five aggregates, which includes the material form, rupa, sensation of feelings, vedana, perception, physical and mental sanya, dynamic process aggregates of disposition, sankara, and consciousness, vijnana. Vedana and sanya arise dependent on rupa. All physical and mental events come into beings and dissolve. Human life embodies this flux in the aging process, the cycle of repeated birth and death in the samsara. Nothing lasts and everything decays. This is applicable to all beings experiencing endless rebirth in the realm. For example, human realm, devaloka, hell, etc., in response to their respective karma and vipaka. Changes including in their environment, such as the stars, galaxies, seasons, weathers, are also constantly changing. So that is what I had for anicca. Even though I have already listed also for dukkha and also anatta, but I'm not going to read it here. Is it okay? So,
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, my third question is the question number 5, year 2018. Indicate how Buddha sought to improve the status of women in the society. So firstly, we have to go back to the ancient time in India. During the Buddha's time, it was mainly one agricultural community or nation, and it stick with customs and religious beliefs. These are the key features of the community then. So at that point of time, the society was classified into 4 castes or groups of people. The Brahmin caste, which is the religious group, who then control the religious rites and rituals and the rights to talk to or access to God. That was the local belief then. Then the second group is the Kshatriya group or the warrior group, which normally control and rule the country. Because they are the warrior, they are the fighter. So normally they are the fierce group of people, and they normally will rule over the country. Then the third will be the trade or the craftsman caste, and the fourth will be the untouchable caste. So women was not even included in any of these and were regarded as low as the lowest caste. There is the untouchable. They were normally confined to household, doing family chores and duties without much recognition by the society. So when a girl was born, it was not favored and generally disliked. Boy was preferred because he carried the family name and tradition. Then when a boy grows up and matures to be a man, he can do the religious rites for the deceased. That is, to do meritoriously on behalf of the deceased relatives. But that is not allowable for women. So as a result, girl was not given proper education or religious training, unlike the boys. So when a young girl, a girl will be under the care of the parents, while when she was married, she was under the protection of her husband. So if her husband had more than one wife, she had to be the co-wife and bear the brunt of jealousy among the wives. And as a result, there'll be a lot of disharmony within the family. So when her husband passed away, there was also a custom where the wife had to jump into the burning fire along with the husband's dead body for cremation. So if they still survive, then the widow was not allowed to remarry and normally was badly treated by the in-laws as well as the family members and the community. And a good case mentioned in the sutta was about King Pasadadi of Kosala kingdom. So the king expressed his dislike and displeasure to Buddha that another girl was born in his family. So Buddha ably pacified him and told him that the girl could be as good and as capable as the man. So the most distinct and revolutionary act by the time then by the Buddha was to allow the creation of the Bhikkhuni order. This was totally against the norm then, and where women had no place nor status in society. No. Spiritual practice was the domain of men only, not women. So when later Buddha also institutionalized the Bhikkhuni order with its own set of rules and regulations, as well as certain autonomy in self-regulating. This is even a higher level than setting up the Bhikkhuni order. And it proved what the Buddha has said of Venerable Ananda, that woman was not inferior to man in spiritual cultivation, progress, and realization. And of course, this was reinforced by the attainment of nobility and the Aryaship, as well as attaining of arahantship by many bhikkhuni. during Buddha's time. So all this is very empowering. It's totally unheard and unprecedented during the Buddha's time. Even in the suttas, it was recorded that few bhikkhunis were declared as foremost in various aspects, similar to the counterpart in the bhikkhu order. For example, Theri Khema was declared foremost in wisdom among the bhikkhuni. So in the bhikkhuni order, the young and novitiate nuns were given proper education and spiritual guidance by the preceptors or the senior nuns and monks. So as a result, the order became an attraction and place for young girls who wish to be educated by becoming a novitiate nun. This is similar to the bhikkhu order, where the young boys, especially those outcast young boys, who wants to be educated but has no chance of being educated, receiving education in the community, will one becomes novitiate monk and get the education through the monastic order. So there is a book in Khuddaka Nikaya called Therigatha, where this Therigatha compiled a list of sayings by Theri, the senior bhikkhunis. And within this saying, there are many good teachings with good information about the bhikkhuni order, then as well as some background history of certain Theri. It shows from those stories, it shows and indicate that many were highly educated, and one possibility was through the Sangha order as well as their own realization. That is, when they realize the Aranship, their wisdom improves substantially, and with that wisdom, they are able to utter very meaningful stanzas that they share with the other bhikkhunis. And these were recorded in Therigatha. In the sutta, Buddha was also quoted to say that a person was a brahmana by his good actions and deeds, not by his birth or learning of scriptures alone. Thus, whether a person was a man or woman, his or her caste or status in society were not the criteria, but his good or her good deeds and morally upright are the criteria. So with those encouragement, many women do a lot of good deeds for their family, the community, and the Sangha community. So some women were even enlisted by Buddha to help resolve conflicts, similar to a counselor nowadays, be it among the lay community as well as the monasteries. In the Sigalo Vada Sutta, Buddha also gave advice for the husband and as well as the wife with regards to their duties and responsibility to each other, as well as the family and the community. So Buddha encouraged mutual respect and complementary roles so that they can build a harmonious and prosperous family. These were different from the societal norm and might be very empowering to and enriching to the women community then. And unlike other sects or religious teachings, women were not allowed to listen, or they can only listen from afar or behind curtain. Whereas in the Buddhist sermons, women, whether young or old, of different social status, they were allowed to attend, listen, and even ask questions. And Buddha taught them without favor or otherwise, but rather depending on their mental acumen and spiritual development. So as a result, many became very good teachers so that they can guide other people, both lay and monastic. And in the process, many women devotees freely donate food to the monks on alms round and also donate the 4 requisites. So one good example is the Mango Grove Monastery Center in Vesali, which was donated by a rich and popular lady devotee called Courtesan Ambapali. Thank you to Sister Theo. I got this detail from her household. She donated it after a big meal dana to the Buddha and his entourage of monks when they visited Vesalin. And Buddha happily accepted on behalf of the Sangha. And in this mango grove, Buddha shared many teachings here, especially the threefold bhikkhu training of Sila, Samadhi, and Panna. And from the perspective of social reforms, besides opposing the caste system, which actually doubly oppressed the woman, Buddha also opposed child marriage. Buddha encouraged education for women as well, and women's rights to choose their partner. And Buddha also spoke against the mistreatment of widows, because the widows are actually very unfortunate during the ancient India time. So in conclusion, Buddha view potentiality of individual rather than from a gender perspective or as a group. And he tried to work within the system and the culture of Islam to help improve the community and nation, not specifically on women alone, but the community and nation as a whole. And on various occasions, Buddha also helped to redefine certain commonly used terms. For example, Brahmana. You have a different interpretation than of what Brahmana means. Similarly, karma was a very frequent term, but it was interpreted in many ways. Buddha redefined the term karma, and even arhat and nirvana. So this is how Buddha actually helps to redefine some of the terminologies that is commonly in use during this time. With that,
Okay, thank you. Great job. I think this is one of our topic syllabus. They just set and put into a question. So you can expect on and all this kind of funny thing coming in. So you also learn something today. So anything they can pump up, be prepared. Okay, thank you.
But I think Brother Cole answered quite well. Quite comprehensive.
Actually, when I started writing, I was having difficulty to compose my mind to present it in the what you call a structured way. It was through a few revision that I finally managed to rearrange it and put the most significant one in front and the less significant one at the back, just to complement. Because the smaller items has to be interpreted our way. It's not stated clearly in the suttas, but we can interpret it that way. For example, the education is not mentioned, specifically mentioned, but we can know that because, for example, now when you look at the monastery in Burma, for example, actually it becomes a center of education. When the formal education system fail, this is where the monastery become an education center for, especially for the orphans. So any comments or suggestions?
Okay, good job. You continue again? Or
okay.
some? Okay.
I'll continue the next part of it. Okay, the next question is question 10, 2018. Explain the concept of Bodhi enlightenment. From day one, when Prince Siddhartha Gautama left his home around 6 BC, his search for was the goal to attain Arahant or enlightenment. That was the perspective of the seeker, Prince Siddhartha Gautama. However, at that point, there were many interpretations, claims, and understanding of what was Arahant and enlightenment. As a result, there were numerous claims that one has attained Arahat, and yet with visible flaws to other spiritual seekers. It was only when the Bodhisattva Gautama finally realized and attained his own enlightenment that the term was clearly spelled out in his sermons and understood by his followers and the listeners. So in the Buddha Dhamma, Bodhi means awakening, enlightenment. Awaken from the dream of ignorance, avijja, and delusion, moha. Having awakened, one becomes enlightened, free and pure. It's bright, light, and easy. There is no burden as the weight of suffering has been removed and totally eradicated. There is no craving for things nor non-things. Things come and go, arise and disappear as per the causal conditions. There is calm, peace, and mind and bliss, rejuvenating and passion abiding. Staying and living on and with the Noble Eightfold Path is just as natural and nature. This might be one way of describing the manifestation of the absence of suffering, dukkha, and absence of craving, tanha. And two, the manifestation of cessation, nirodha, and the path, magga, as narrated in the Four Noble Truths of the first sermon called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, when Buddha Gautama attained his enlightenment. It's like eureka, a sudden understanding and realization of phenomena and nature. So in the Buddha Dhamma, there are three ways of attaining Bodhi enlightenment. One is the Samma Sambuddha, fully self-enlightened without a teacher. He has the necessary knowledge and skills through his parami that enable him to teach, to guide, and to help others towards enlightenment, and to set up community of noble monks and nuns. The second one is Pachika Buddha, a fully self-enlightened being, also without a teacher, but he lacks the capacity to teach. The third one is Sawaka Buddha or Arahat. Arahat is also a fully enlightened one, but only after hearing the teaching or guidance by the teacher or teachers. So some gain enlightenment merely by hearing, whereas others require extensive practices and more learning and guidance. These are what the Buddha mentioned as having little dust in the eye. If without the teaching, they would not be able to attain or to gain enlightenment. So an enlightened being or enlightened one has completely and fully eradicated all mental defilements, kilesa, and the 10 fetters, samudana. He has totally uprooted the three unwholesome roots, namely greed, hatred, and delusion. He understands and has direct insights into the Four Noble Truths, that there is karma and end to karma, and dependent origination, paticca samuppada. That his spiritual pursuit has been completed. His life has been well lived, and there is no becoming. He knows that the cycle of existence, samsara, has ended, and no more becoming. He is liberated. This is not merely intellectual understanding, but transformative experiences. He does not create nor generate any more karma. Whatever he does is just functional action, kriya, that is to get things done. However, while he is alive, when the fruit of past karma ripen, he still has to bear with it, be it good or bad, but with equanimity in mind and spirit. This is unlike common lay people who will react to it with great hatred and delusion. For a spiritual practitioner who aspires to attain Bodhi, Buddha has prescribed a formula with various methods along the way to suit individual characteristics, traits, skills, and latent tendencies. The general scheme, in a broad sense, is called the gradual way or the gradual practice, comprising of morality, concentration, and wisdom, sila, samadhi, and panya. One starts with good morality, that is to abstain from unwholesome actions and thoughts. to promoting and maintaining wholesome deeds and thoughts. With this basic morality as foundation, one has calmer and more peaceful mind, and with little or no worry nor remorse, one could move on to practice higher mindfulness and mental cultivation more easily, and that can lead towards one-pointedness in jhana attainment. The jhana will give clarity and sharpness when the mind observes the mental object. So with this clarity and sharpness, one turns to and uses the insight meditation or vipassana bhavana techniques as recommended by the Buddha to observe the mental object or any phenomenon that arises in the mind. The higher the jhana, the greater the clarity of the object. One could see the arising and ceasing of the phenomenon, uncontrollable as the circumstances evolve. When one attaches on it, it leads to discomfort, stress, and suffering. Gradually, insight knowledge builds up. One let go until a stage of no return, and one attains the swim and flow. With further practice and insight understanding, one progresses upward to one's returner, non-returner, and finally Arahant. Whereas the specific scheme mentioned in the Buddha's first sermon is called the middle way, Majjhima Patipada. There are 8 interconnected paths which when practiced well and it culminates into maturity, full realization or enlightenment happens. This is also called the Noble Eightfold Path or the Fourth Noble Truth. The 8 paths are named as follows: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. In this scheme, one starts with the mundane right view, such as belief in the law of causation, karma vipaka, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and their qualities. With this right view, one has the right intention and a proper base to practice and cultivate morality. The morality component comprises of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. As one improves in the morality, life becomes smoother, better, more harmonious, calm, and peaceful. With this moral foundation, one practices right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. One has great potential to attain one-pointedness and jhana. There are 4 form jhana and 4 formless jhana. As this practice matures, one will gain insights into the reality as it really is, yatha bhuta, that leads to right knowledge, samajnana, and right liberation, sama vimutti, and attain full liberation of bodhi. In conclusion, bodhi is not merely a concept. It is attainable when one walks the proper and right path, the Noble Eightfold Path. The duration and time taken to arrive at bodhi depends on individual's knowledge, skills, efforts, and the latent potential that one has accumulated over many lives. Patient and persistent with good, wise teachers who are able to give comprehensive, direct guidance are important in the speedy attainment too. As the Buddha has said, one has to walk the path. Buddha can only show the way. Thank you.
Okay, done a very good job to do all the research.
Brother Cole,
Yes.
can you go back to the right, the samasati there?
Samasati, yeah.
You put there right mindfulness or memory. I think memory not very correct. Here. Right mindfulness or memory. I think memory is not very correct.
But actually, when you say sati, it's not only mindfulness.
But you also cannot say it's memory, ma. It's more than memory. And then, I don't know. I think if you put all memory, I think it's not very correct, lah.
Because when I follow Ayasma Agatita one, you see the memory is actually a key component of sati.
Yeah, he say recollection or remember or something. There are 4 hours, but when you write as a paper, right? I think
Yes.
it is not that correct to put there because nobody so far lah. I don't think I come across any translation as a samasati as a right mindfulness or memory.
Yeah, I haven't come
If
across
you
also, but that's why I put
Remove
a
it solve all the problem because
yeah,
you
correct.
say
I
this is a
think it cause
typical
confusion.
Dhamma, they never put memory.
Okay. Just like the right sama samadhi, right composure. In fact, there's a few translation on this also. Even I think what was the name? There was a monk in Brahma Vihara also have their own interpretation on samadhi as well as the sati also. But it's okay lah. Okay, for YMBA, maybe stay put with the with the what lah? With the
Brother Ko
traditional,
and
yeah.
Brother Lau is Chaimun. Actually, when we look through Suttas intro for the definition of sati, it is also listed memory. So I think yours is correct, but not commonly used.
Yeah, not commonly used. Okay. That's the end of my presentation.